Over 3 million commute through Chicago daily, but this weekend the NASCAR Cup Series is set to roar through those streets. This isn't just a race, it's a high-speed boxing match through the heart of the Windy City, with tight corners, unforgiving walls, and 2.2 miles of precision driving. From the shadow of skyscrapers, these drivers will put it all on the line in hopes of securing their spot in victory lane, and more importantly, NASCAR's postseason. In this race review, we'll break down the competitors, the storylines, and the keys to victory in this Chi-Town showdown. So reach up and pull those belts tight. It's time to hit the streets of the Windy City for the NASCAR Cup Series Chicago Street Race. Welcome to our Chicago Street Race recap/review. The gameplay during this video you'll see in the background is from NASCAR 2005 Chase for the Cup. You'll have to forgive the errors. I was nodding off while recording this gameplay. I'd been awake for a long time. So we just laid down the best laps we could while actively falling asleep. So when you see me run off track, you know why. So excuse that. Today's race name was the Grant Park 165. Like the last 2 years, this race did not have a title sponsor, but it did have presenting sponsor. Race location, as previously noted, Chicago in Illinois. The distance of the race was 165 miles. The first race held at this track was in 2023. The track length is 2.2 miles. This is a pretty important race for the NASCAR Cup Series, and not necessarily in the prestige around the race and the history and the tradition. This race is for the promotion of NASCAR in major metropolitan areas. NASCAR has looked through many other metro areas throughout the United States on where they could possibly hold another street race, and I believe it was Denny Hamlin this week that suggested that they should run a street oval. So they may need to look into how they can add banked corners to a downtown layout. This all follows NASCAR's planned strategy of not building new rural tracks and taking NASCAR to the fans. So meeting them in the major metropolitan areas where they can just step out their front door and see NASCAR instead of having to drive 2 to 4 hours, however long, outside of the city center to see the race. With that said, Chicagoland may be making a return in some form, so just keep your eye on that as they near releasing next year's schedule. There have been rumors about Chicagoland returning, and Carson Hocevar recently flew over, and then soon after he actually visited Chicagoland, he took some video and he took some pictures, and he posted that on his YouTube channel if you're interested in seeing the state of the Chicagoland racetrack. Going into this weekend, we were concerned that weather could be an issue, but weather did actually hold off. In 2023, the race was shortened to 75 laps due to darkness following a rain delay, but then was extended due to NASCAR overtime. And in 2024, the race was shortened to 58 laps due to darkness following a rain delay. The forecast going into today was a 55% chance of rain, and it looked about like a 25 to 45% chance of rain all day. And as we now know, the rain did hold off, but the heat didn't. The drivers were struggling with heat. Many drivers had issues with their cooling suits, and we actually had one fan have a medical emergency, and we'll talk about that later. In other news, this weekend we had the electric car demo from NASCAR. We had one car from Chevy, one from Ford, and one that was a NASCAR branded prototype. Just notice there was no Toyota prototype there. David Reagan was in the Ford, Rajah Caruth was in the Chevy, and Brent Cruz was in the NASCAR prototype. This race did have several open cars attempt to start, with one team going home. Those teams were Austin Hill, Will Brown, Josh Bilicki, Corey Heim, and Catherine Legg. Let's take a look at our qualifying order for today's race. On the pole, we had Shane Van Gisbergen, second Michael McDowell, third Carson Hocevar, fourth Tyler Reddick, fifth Chase Briscoe, sixth Kyle Busch, seventh Ryan Preece, eighth Chris Buescher, ninth Ty Gibbs, 10th Austin Dillon, and 11th Alex Bowman. And then to the rear, we had all the Hendrick cars and Denny Hamlin, I believe Noah Gragson as well. We had a slew of cars. We'll read through that list. Yes, the 4, 5, 9, 10, 23, 24, 47, 48, and 78 cars all to the rear for unapproved adjustments, and the number 11 to the rear for an engine change. So we had that storyline going into this weekend's race. How are the Hendrick cars going to come up through the field? How are they going to perform? And we have a possible repeat of what happened in Mexico with Shane Van Gisbergen qualifying on the pole. He was also on the pole for the Xfinity race yesterday and went on to win that race. So we were looking at, could SVG sweep the weekend from the pole? Now let's get to the race recap. On lap 1, Shane Van Gisbergen leads them off. Michael McDowell fights back and takes the lead. William Byron had a major issue with his clutch slipping, and that ends up taking him out of the race. He ends up heading to pit road on lap 3, and I believe that's the last we saw William Byron on track. On lap 4, major caution. From 7th position, Carson Hocevar tags the inside wall in turn 10, and then gets into the wall hard. This brings out a red flag. Chris Buescher says he's down on power, and Kyle Larson required a push start after the red flag. On lap 7, Michael McDowell leads them off and holds the lead. And on lap 13, Alex Bowman spins in turn 12 from mid-pack and continued. Lap 16, Kyle Larson, Josh Berry, and Ryan Blaney pit. This kind of begins our first cycle of pit stops. On lap 17, the pit stops continue, and Christopher Bell was too fast on pit road, so a major penalty from Christopher Bell. Lap 20, Michael McDowell takes stage 1. We have Kyle Busch in 2nd, 3rd, Tyler Reddick, 4th, Chase Briscoe, 5th, Ryan Preece, 6th, Ross Chastain, 7th, John Hunter Nemechek, 8th, Zane Smith, 9th, Austin Hill, and 10th, Noah Gragson. On lap 22, Kyle Larson has issues with his hot suit. We heard that from many drivers throughout the weekend. And before the race, Ricky Stenhouse was interviewed. He claims that they break more often than they work, so he just declines to use it completely. This helps save his car extra horsepower and weight. On lap 25, Michael McDowell leads them off, and Bubba Wallace spins from mid-pack but continues. And on lap 29, Josh Berry spins after getting into it with Eric Jones for a bit, and he gets into the wall hard, so he's stuck on track for a while. On lap 30, the caution comes out for that injured Josh Berry car. And on lap 32, Michael McDowell pits from the lead for the throttle issue. He was telling the crew that it was sticking. On lap 34, Shane Van Gisbergen reassumes the lead. Kyle Busch spins and continues. And on lap 38, Kyle Busch gets a penalty for driving through too many pit stalls. Lap 40, Catherine Legg spins and Eric Jones hits the wall but continues. And during the pit cycle, Ryan Blaney stays out and ends up taking the lead. And then on lap 45, Ryan Blaney takes stage 2. In 2nd, we had Chase Briscoe, 3rd, Tyler Reddick, 4th, Alex Bowman, 5th, Bubba Wallace, 6th, Denny Hamlin, 7th, Chase Elliott, 8th, John Hunter Nemechek, 9th, Eric Jones, and 10th, Christopher Bell. Eric Jones had a broken toe link, and then on lap 49, Chase Briscoe leads them off. On lap 51, Ty Dillon ends up pitting for a flat tire, and on lap 60, Shane Van Gisbergen passes Chase Briscoe for the lead, and immediately after, a caution flies for a real-world medical emergency. An ambulance had to cross over the track to take a fan off-site, so it seems to me that it was most likely a heat injury issue. Ty Dillon receives the free pass, and on lap 63, Shane Van Gisbergen leads them off once more. On this restart, Ross Chastain hits the inside wall and stacks up the field. Everyone continues, but Austin Cindric had broken a toe link. And on lap 64, there was a caution for Austin Cindric's ailing car. Ryan Blaney receives the free pass, and with 9 laps to go, SVG leads them off. Bowman was the first car on newer tires. I believe he was around 9th place at this point, so we were looking to see if he could push through the field. Chase Briscoe ends up cutting a tire down, and he can't get to pit road. When Chase Briscoe cut his tire down, they were getting near to the entrance of pit road, and he was stuck on the outside, so he had to go around 1 extra lap just to get back to pit road. And at the very end, to make this in-season challenge bracket interesting, Bubba Wallace and Alex Bowman end up getting into it for a couple laps for a top 10 spot and to move on in their bracket for $1 million. So to me, it looks like Bowman was trying to pass Bubba Wallace clean, and Bubba multiple times door slammed Bowman, and some of that could have been mutual, but it looked to me like Bubba was more of the instigator in this. Tyler Reddick ends up getting around both of them, and then Bubba and Bowman go back at it, and at one point, Bubba almost puts Bowman into the outside wall. Bowman regains it, and about 2 turns later, Bowman gets a better launch off the corner, and he gets to the back of Bubba Wallace, and they make contact. Just flush bumper to bumper, nothing dirty. But Bubba was moving left to right, and that contact there ends up hooking Bubba Wallace and spins him. So Alex Bowman moves forward and gets that top 10 position, and he also knocks out Bubba Wallace from the in-season bracket challenge. So we'll see if there were any hard feelings there. I didn't see anything after the race ended. This doesn't look like it ended in a fight. And honestly, a lot of it just looked like a racing deal, but I'm not sure if the bracket didn't exist, Bubba would have raced him that hard. I don't think he would have. And then on the second to last lap, this is a major event, Cody Ware gets into the tire barrier and he's stuck. And this is as they're about to come around for the white flag. And NASCAR messed up here. I honestly believe NASCAR race control messes up time and time again. This is another example. Cody Ware's car is stuck in the tire barrier. They know they're going to have to throw the caution. And instead of throwing it before Shane Van Gisbergen takes the white flag, they hold the yellow flag, let Shane Van Gisbergen take the white flag, and then they end the race 1 lap early. I just thought that was a pathetic call because once cars get stuck in the tire barrier, they're not getting back out. They knew they had to throw the flag, and they held out for it, and who knows, that could have changed the result of the race. Tyler Reddick was right there and pushing, so maybe it would have a different result if they had gone forward. But in a sense, maybe perhaps it was a more clean finish without that last second flag. Let's look at our race results. In first, we had Shane Van Gisbergen. Second, Ty Gibbs. Third, Tyler Reddick. Fourth, Denny Hamlin. Fifth, Kyle Busch. Great run for Kyle Busch today. Really needing those points. And the guy is trying to run down on the points, actually. Finishing right below him in sixth, AJ Allmendinger. Ryan Preece in seventh. Eighth, Alex Bowman. So another good run for Bowman. They're trying to recover from that slide they had. Ninth, Austin Hill. 10th, Ross Chastain. 11th, Joey Logano. 12th, Ryan Blaney. 13th, Kyle Larson. 14th, Zane Smith. 15th, John Hunter Nemechek. 16th, Chase Elliott. 17th, Riley Herbst. 18th, Chris Buescher. 19th, Catherine Legg. 20th, Ty Dillon. 21st, Josh Bilicki. 22nd, Justin Haley. 23rd, Chase Briscoe. 24th, Christopher Bell. 25th, Eric Jones. 26th, Cody Ware. 27th, Austin Cindric. 28th, Bubba Wallace. 29th, Daniel Suarez. 30th, Noah Gragson. 31st, Ricky Stenhouse. 32nd, Michael McDowell. 33rd, Cole Custer. 34th, Josh Berry. 35th, Carson Hocevar. 36th, Austin Dillon. 37th, Brad Keselowski. 38th, Todd Gilliland. 39th, Will Brown. And 40th, William Byron. So again, William Byron, they're having a rough summer stretch. Alex Bowman had the best day out of the Hendrick cars, but the Hendrick cars were kind of lethargic today. It didn't seem like they had a lot of get-go. And starting from the rear was a penalty all its own. Let's look at our playoff bubble. So in 13th, we have Tyler Reddick, 142 points above the cut line. In 14th, we have Alex Bowman, 39 points ahead of the cut line. 15th, Chris Buescher, 35 points ahead of the cut line. 16th, Bubba Wallace, 3 points ahead of the cut line. So very, very close battle for this playoff bubble. 17th, 3 points under the cut line, we have Ryan Preece. 18th, AJ Allmendinger, 44 points below the cut line. 19th, Kyle Busch, 47 points below the cut line. And in 20th, Eric Jones, 51 points below the cut line. So as we get closer to the playoffs, this battle is going to get tighter and tighter, and they're going to focus on it more on the broadcast. So it's going to be interesting to see how this shapes up, especially with the last race before the playoffs being at Daytona. Anything can happen. Let's look at our bracket challenge. That was a big topic of discussion, especially with Alex Bowman and Bubba Wallace running so close to each other and getting into each other eventually. But with that said, Alex Bowman eliminates Bubba Wallace. Eric Jones holds on to eliminate Ricky Stenhouse Jr. Ty Gibbs eliminates AJ Allmendinger. Tyler Reddick eliminates Carson Hocevar. Ty Dillon, once again with the upset, eliminating Brad Keselowski. John Hunter Nemechek eliminates Chase Elliott by one single position. I thought that was crazy. And Chase would have been a favorite, I think, if he had been able to pull this off. Ryan Preece eliminates Noah Gragson. Zane Smith eliminates Chris Buescher. Overall, I thought today's coverage by TNT was pretty good. I'm really enjoying the pre-race and the post-race coverage. It's definitely a step down from Amazon Prime's coverage, but considering it's on broadcast television, I think they're doing a great job. You know, it's definitely a step above what Fox has been doing and probably a step above what NBC has been doing. So this TNT booth is enjoyable to watch, and I really enjoy their coverage and how they cover it on two different networks. You can watch the Altcast on True TV if that's what you prefer, and you can also find practice and qualifying over on True TV. This race overall was a lot closer than the Mexico City race, and it was so good to have a special event that was not impacted by weather for once. You know, usually they try to bring out all these new fans and people that are just attending out of curiosity, they're not going to stick around during a weather delay. So a lot of times you see that hurt attendance, you see it hurt the overall atmosphere around the event. So it was good to see that weather hold off for once, finally, for the first time in Chicago street courses history. Shane Van Gisbergen may have not had the best car in the field, but he definitely was the man who put it all together, avoiding reckless mechanical failures and pit road penalties. This sets up SVG for a better position going into the postseason, and I believe in the playoff standings right now, he is in 4th position. So this is a guy that's in the low 20s in the points, in the full season points, but in the postseason, he's 4th. That's crazy to me. I think that's a flaw with the system, but while it is the current system, you have to play the game and the rules that NASCAR sets, and Shane Van Gisbergen and his team are doing that very well. And with Sonoma next weekend, Shane Van Gisbergen could get win number 3. So we're going to be looking for that. It is a track that a lot of these drivers have more experience on, So Shane Van Gisbergen's advantage may not be as much, but once again, I mean, he's just looked so smooth. He's not making critical mistakes, so he very well could be a favorite going into next week. We'll just see how practice and qualifying goes and see if the 88 team puts up that same speed. One point to make about the points format is SVG getting 2 wins and having these better runs. That would be rewarded with a season-long format. Now, he wouldn't jump from 33rd in the points to automatically being in the playoffs, but he would start moving his way through the points. And arguably, stage points would be more important during a season-long format. Because with the playoff format, you're just racing for that cutoff line because you know the points are going to reset. But if it was a season-long points format with the stage points, these teams would be going for that week in and week out, because 20 points a race, or somewhere in that range from 1 to 20 points for the 2 stage finishes, that would have a huge impact over the course of a season. And it would completely change how these drivers go for the stage victories or the stage positions over pitting ahead, over short pitting. Just something to think about. Overall, it was a fun race. It was a hot race. All the drivers that complained about that. We had a fan have their medical emergency. Hopefully they're doing all right. And the cars were slipping and sliding a lot. Shane Van Gisbergen remarked on that. But overall, it was a fun race. And I don't have too many complaints. This may be the last time we see the Chicago street course, but it's probably not the last time we're going to see a street course. So we'll see what NASCAR plans to do in the future. If you guys enjoy this style of racing, make sure to let NASCAR know. Let them know on social media and make your voice heard. If you want to continue this discussion in the comments for anything that we did talk about or anything we didn't talk about, go ahead and leave that in the comments. If you liked the video, like it. If you dislike it, dislike it. And I hope you guys enjoyed today's race review and race recap. Thank you for the support lately. It's been fantastic on our uploads and on our live streams. So if that's something you're interested in, more NASCAR content or just random content generally, go ahead and make sure you're subscribed. And hopefully I see you guys in the next one.